$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES podcast with your host, Soul Blazer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Super NES Podcast, episode number 147. You are here with the two co-hosts of the show. I'm Greg. He's Joe.
Hi.
And as always, we thank you for listening to the podcast, and I especially thank Joe here for indulging me with one of my definitely favorite little known niche games, but definitely is one that is definitely an acquired taste. I'll be the first to admit that. So
Yeah.
So I wanted to cover one of Koei's more lesser known games for the system. Actually lesser known period to begin with, but we'll get into that in a moment. In this episode, we're looking at the Super NES port of Liberty or Death by Koei, which is a strategy game based upon the American Revolution. And the American Revolution does not really have a lot of mini games based on it. Compared to some other wars, like the Civil War or World War II, obviously, it's pretty much... There really has not been very much done in the time period, which is one reason why I always gravitated toward this game, because it's pretty unique as far as that goes. There was an older DOS-based strategy game that I enjoyed playing that also took place in the Revolution. More modern games, you do have Assassin's Creed 3, which uses the Revolution as the backdrop. Obviously, a lot of the events in that game are changed quite majorly from historical factors, but the dressings of history, are present in the game. I have played an indie first-person shooter game based upon the time period, but it's not the most fun. Mostly it's because that it's not so much the fault of the game itself, but just that I just think because the technology time period, trying to make a good FPS is not very workable, because the muskets being used in this time period were very slow to fire and hard to use and that kind of stuff. It's not really the best ingredient for trying to do an FPS game. So
And it's funny because I was just thinking it'd be pretty cool to see a Revolutionary War FPS game.
Yep.
And then here you are start talking about it, and then as you're talking about it being slow, methodical with the muskets and everything else, I'm sitting there going yeah, I'm glad I didn't open my mouth and say I wish there was a first-person shooter, because you're right.
Yeah, it's kind of,
you know what I mean?
Yep. It's kind of the same reason we haven't seen one based on the Civil War period either. But
right.
Because because most games of the 19th century, the Total War games, the Napoleonic era or the Civil War games, they're more they're more RTS or turn-based strategy games, because you can see the muskets fire, but you don't actually have to worry about trying to actually go through the 3-minute reloading period that those guns required. Right. So the oldest first-person shooter game I've seen is World War I based, which actually works very well, because by then the guns for that were reliable, and that FPS game I'm thinking about was not an indie game. That was a major AAA game. I just can't think of the name of it right now. But
Battlefield.
Verdun, I think, actually is what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Battlefield 1.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What it was called. That was
World War One. Yeah, I forgot about that. Right. Not a very historically accurate World War One.
Right.
But yeah, whereas Verdun is more more historically based with the weapons, the weapons that take the time period. But yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. So yeah. Anyway, so anything happening during this, so anything set during the Revolution is definitely going to get my interest, because as people may know, as a member of the podcast, I did major in history, so this kind of stuff is always interesting to me, and I've always been a big Koei fan for a long time. Ever since I was, I was like like a kid. So so yeah. So we've talked about Koei before in the past. So I'm not in the past of this podcast. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This game, like many other games, originally came out for the computers. And then got console ports later on. With some with some changes made to the game for its like console like iterations. It originally came out in 1993 for the PC 9801, which was a popular line of Japanese computers the time period, and also like a DOS-based version. It is strange how Japanese companies making a game based upon an American war, but I guess that's more. But I guess it's no more stranger than Capcom making a shooter based upon the Battle of Midway. So.
Right.
But 1943 is a great game. I love that game. But yeah, anyway, so the Super NES and Genesis ports of the game came the following year in 1994. With a few differences. So we'll get in those differences, as we as we go along. So, however, even though Koei was Japanese based, they did get the talents of an American to help them design the. I designed the game. So one of the main advisors / producers in the game was a guy called Stig Hidlum, who was well known as being a computer and video game designer, artist, and writer for over 25 years. He's worked on over 30 games, in the industry, over the years. He's worked in many genres: action RPG, real-time strategy, tactical shooter, beat 'em up, action adventure. Some of the most famous games he's worked on include a bunch of other Koei games such as Gemfire and Celtic Tales. He's also worked in the Lord of the Rings games, Comic Zone, that's an infamous game. The Ooze, Sonic Extreme, Diablo 2, StarCraft, both 1 and 2. A lot of the Tom Clancy games, on and on. So, So it's Koei recognized that this time period was kind of ripe for a game, so they kind of reached out to him to get his help with the game. But Koei also had a very good reputation for branching out to other periods and genres their games. But for example, they also made one game based upon the Napoleonic Revolutionary Wars. They made not only was it the famous Romance of the Three Kingdoms series, which is still going strong today, but they also made some other games based upon that time period, like Bandit Kings of Ancient China, and whatnot. So, they covered we've already covered PTO2 on this podcast, which is a Pacific War game. There was also Aerobiz. We need to talk about Aerobiz at some point. Aerobiz is a very fun
interesting.
simulator game where you run an airplane company.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Both that game and the sequel are definitely they're a lot of fun to play. So yeah, they have branched out a lot. I mean, nowadays Koei is mostly known for its mostly known for the
Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, Dynasty Warriors series. And they merged
and the different spin-offs.
Right. Yep. So So and Koei merged with Tecmo a while back. So it's in this country, it's Tecmo Koei because Tecmo is the better known the companies, but Japan it's Koei Tecmo. So that's kind of curious, but just kind of reflecting what's better known, in both areas. So,
right.
But anyway, so this is pretty similar to so this game is pretty similar in some ways to other Koei games of this time period. It's you just take. You could play either on the revolutionary side trying to get the independence, or on the British side trying to crush the independence. With a bunch of there's commander in chiefs. There's also there's a strategy mode where you get to try to try to keep your people happy and try to recruit recruit people with your cause. Buy supplies, manage supplies. Try to decide where your purchase money has to go to. Then there's also the tactical phase. The map covers the whole eastern seaboard of the United States. So not only do you have the 13 colonies, you also have Canada in the north and Florida in the south. So you also have those theaters to play in as well. And you can also move your forces around. When you get into tactical combat, the map zooms in to a close up of that region, which is pretty nice. And it's it's pretty like, I can say that word, geographically historical as well. Like for example, like for example, Eastern Massachusetts looks like Eastern Massachusetts. Like you say, like, like
Right.
Boston, Cape Cod, that kind of stuff. So that's so that's a nice touch. So yeah, and so you're trying, and of course, there's different scenarios that you can play in like most games. So in the so one change between the computer and console versions, like the original computer versions, you could choose your commander-in-chief, like for each side. There were 3 people available on both sides. In the console versions, they simplified that. You simply have either George Washington on the Patriots or Thomas Gage on the British, like you're like CNC. So some other differences between the versions. The graphics are of course better in the console versions. They were improved. The music quality was also done. The interface would change from mouse to controller, but the controller would like, but I always felt I always felt like, that the controller works pretty well for these kinds of games. I never really had any problems like navigating like around. So this game is very historically accurate. There's a lot. There's a lot here. There's a lot to take in. It definitely can be a bit overwhelming at first, which is why I was always a bit cautious, like about which is why I gave Joe a bunch of recommended, watch this, read this stuff first, to help him prepare for the game, because it is a bit, this is not, I'd argue this is not the most complicated Kawaii game, but it definitely is up there as far as its its depth, and it definitely takes some time to get the hang of it. Since you're new to this game, Joe, I'm curious to hear about your experiences with it. How much problem you had trying to game with it, your struggles, what you found difficult, that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I was smart and I watched the recommended videos that you had sent me. But I'd also watched a few videos on YouTube beforehand to kind of get an idea of how the game was played.
Okay.
I was looking for a manual. For some reason, I could not use Google properly. And find a proper manual. So that's why I went to YouTube and found a couple videos. But I don't know, man. I'm not a huge fan of strategy games. So this was tough. This was really tough for me to get through.
Yeah.
So I did play for a bit. I gave it a fair shot.
Yeah.
But this is one of those it's kind of like Metal Max where I really put the most minimum of effort. You know what I mean? I played it. I got to go through the motions of the different things. I learned real quick, don't underpay your soldiers because they will turn on you and just leave. If anything, pay them a little bit more and they'll actually stick around and be loyal, which is really cool. I really like the idea that you can parade around your officers as kind of like a way to build support.
Sure. Yep. Exactly.
In the region. Right. That was pretty cool. And it's free, which is, if you're playing this, it's all about money management as well as managing other things. So money is big. So being the parade your officer around and get that support for free instead of, as I learned, using the Gazette and basically sending out propaganda through the newspapers, which costs money. This is actually much better.
Yeah.
But you buy food, you can buy cannons, boats. Anything that you can think of that you would do as a general in a war trying to defeat someone else, you're basically able to do in this game.
Yeah.
And I was actually amazed at as simple as the graphics are. The graphics are really good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was actually really pleased.
Yeah, we talk about that now because Kawaii's always had good graphics in their games, I thought. So these graphics are charming. There's there definitely something like a charm to it because
yes, yeah.
The portraits are all very detailed. They look like the characters that they're trying to show. So the little guys, like the combat scenes are very like nice, like the way they just march around and like you have this, and you can tell right away based upon their shape and color. Okay, that's a militia, that's a royalist, et cetera, et cetera. So, the combat animations are nice. So, the graphics are very cute. They're very charming. They're very detailed. Like I said, the geography of the regions is very well done. I was very impressed by that. So, they're very good graphics. Like a very nice. Even though it's a port, they did certainly take advantage of the Super NES color palette to make it look like somewhat pleasing to the eye. So
yes.
Plus the mini cutscenes, like the opening and the pictures every now and then, also look very nice. So, but the music also was pretty good, I thought. Like,
I was just gonna say, the one big note I have in my notes is the music is excellent.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the music for this game.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So, mix of historical pieces, like new stuff. Like very appropriate. Fits very well. Yeah, Koei's always had good music in their games. I thought it just like a lot of it's been underrated over the years, but they really went all out to try to make that kind of like there. Did you have any problems controlling everything? Did you agree with my assessment that the controller worked pretty well?
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much, for the most part, just picking things out of a menu and whatnot, and, it's pretty much automated after that, so...
Sure.
I didn't have any problems at all.
But, so...
If I failed, it wasn't the control, it was me.
Well, I mean, actually, as much as they tried to make the game historically accurate, the Americans do have the advantage in most of the scenarios of this game, I think, because... obviously both sides have pros and cons, but the Americans have things like it's easier for the Americans to keep popular support, I think, compared to the British.
Right.
The Americans also have better commanders, like overall. Especially if you're able to keep Benedict Arnold from going Benedict Arnold on you in this game, and
right.
Keep on the American side, which is possible to do. I mean, you don't do anything, he will drift toward the traitor status that he's historically known as, but you can,
right?
But if you take pains to keep him happy, you can't keep him, like the cause of this game. The Americans have, the North, like New England, New York, Pennsylvania, are strong beds for them. The South has more British support. So, if you're playing British, it's definitely recommended to start in that region first. Since it's like easier for you to play down there. So, so it's a very fine balancing act trying to keep the Congress or the House or Parliament happy, and trying to recruit generals and trying to decide where purchase money has to go to, that kind of stuff. So. Right. So it's not just like tactical fighting, although tactical battles do play an important role in this.
Right.
So because tactical battles, you're oftentimes, especially the Americans, you have to learn to pick your battles carefully because,
right.
Just like in the real war, you're gonna lose most of your battles. So you have to really just decide, where to, where to fight, and do your best. And I think it's, people argue about this. I think it's worthwhile putting as much effort into your regular soldiers, your Continentals, as possible, because there's something just par for par, just better troops than your militia. I mean, militia's fine in a pinch, but if you really want to do any kind of serious attacking, you really need Continentals with you. So
I agree.
So and like I said before, powder, supplies, money, all that's critically important because most of the it wasn't until late in the war that the Americans finally got the experience and training to be able to hold up to the British, on a more European style, quote unquote, combat system. So and for most of the game, you're really trying to hit and slash tactics and trying keep what you can and keep the British off balance, flavor kind of stuff. So, it's definitely a hard game. It's definitely a long game. You can spend a lot of hours on this. So, depending upon the scenario that you play and how you play and that kind of stuff. So,
now I didn't notice, but was there a save feature with this game?
Oh yeah, there's a save. Yep, there's 2 slots. So
Okay.
yep.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
as soon as you said that, this is the long game,
Yeah.
and I agree, it is a
Right.
long game. I didn't even think to even look whether the game could be saved or not.
Right. Right. So, yeah, yep, definitely. Yep, you can save it. Like most Kawaii games this time period, you can also, I can also play this game multiplayer if you want to. One side British, one side is American.
Okay.
Or you can also set the game as like 0 player, just CPU against CPU. So, which is a nice touch. So, but this is a tricky game to recommend because so I knew Joe was gonna probably struggle with this, but yeah, I do appreciate you, giving it a shot for me. So
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's definitely a very unique game. Like I said, not many games cover the Revolution, so as a heavy game set in this time period was great. If you enjoy Kawaii games, and are not put off by complex strategy, this game is definitely well worth looking at. Most of the reviews of the game when it came out were positive. Just so most of their comments were about it's huge amount of detail and makes it an acquired taste. If you enjoy historical games, this one's right up your alley. You must be content with studying numbers rather than watching graphics or graphics. So, most of the reviews of the game back then gave it around let's see. Just give some examples. GamePro gave it a 7 out of 10. EGM gave it a 6.6 out of 10. So on. So, middling scores and those scores are pretty much like what it is still today. So,
Right.
This is not the easiest Kawaii game. Gemfire, which George and I covered a while back, is probably the easiest Kawaii strategy game to get into. We've also talked about the Uncharted Waters, the Uncharted Waters games, which are great. Those are a great mix of strategy, action, RPG, trading, everything like Road to One. Those are also very easy, easily approachable games. But so Liberty or Death is definitely a very complex Kawaii game. But if you enjoy games of this type, and if you and if you're looking for a good challenge, this game's definitely one to check out. And I wanted to give it a shout out partly because of the fact this game really has flown under the radar for the most part over the years.
Right.
There's very little press talked about it. Even when people think about Kawaii games, they think about games like No Monogamous Ambition, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Gemfire, that kind of stuff. But,
Right.
This kind of game doesn't really get noticed very much. So, you gotta have patience for it. You gotta have the ability to love games like this. But, if you do enjoy games like this, by far give it a shot. So, did you have anything else you want to say about this game, Joe? Final thoughts? You good or bad? Some other impressions, perhaps?
I won't give it a good or bad just because of the fact that, this isn't my style of game.
Right.
So, I recommend it to anybody who likes these type of games. Absolutely. Like I said, the music's fantastic. The graphics are just what you need for a game like this. It's just not my cup of tea. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep, totally understand that. So, I know you said you liked the graphics and the music. Was there anything else that you really enjoyed?
The ease of the menus. The menus are really, straightforward.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so a lot of options, but they're all pretty easy to understand, what everything is and how to do it and that kind of stuff. So, you may curse yourself for not having the supplies of money that you want for them, but at least everything's there for you to see. So
yeah,
for sure. So
yeah, I was really trying to think really hard after I put some effort into the game and whatnot. I was really thinking what's a really bad Super Nintendo game that we could review to kind of get you back for this one, but I decided not to do that.
Well, bad games can be fun to talk about too. So it's it's not it's not it has to be all bleh stuff. But
yeah, no,
yeah,
I got you.
yeah, so yeah, this has been a game. I played this game virtually after it came out because I was already a Kawhi fan to begin with. So
Right.
yeah, so yeah, so yeah, like it's a very interesting game in a very interesting time period that I kind of was, that I kind of think it's like right to have some more games done in, but just the whole 18th century period has been kind of overlooked as far as like games go. So
Yeah.
I definitely would like to see like more of that happening right now during this time period. So
Yeah.
but anyway, so okay. Being a strategy game, there's no like cheats or hints or codes or anything else like that. Like this game.
This game could have benefited from some cheats to get some like free gold or something.
Well, I mean, there are like there are like save states you can download if you want to mess around.
That's no fun.
To mess around various things. So, or actually, hex editors. People who are good at hex editors can certainly like
that's true.
Things around. So,
yep.
I mean, 16-bit code is not that complex. You can like figure out how to get in there and change things around like fairly easily. But anyway, so despite the fact this game was not made in huge amounts, the price of this game are relatively cheap on eBay, all things considered. I thought for a game, for a game like this, it's readily available. 17 copies currently being listed on eBay. 12 copies recently sold. Card only can range anywhere from $25 to $42. So, and CIB can range anywhere from $50 to $90. So,
wow.
Not really bad prices for like prices like one of like smaller niche games. So,
yeah.
I was even surprised.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, I was even surprised to see there was a sealed copy of the game on here that recently sold.
Oh wow.
And again, as far as sealed prices go, not that bad. $157.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
So, yeah. So, easily affordable. Like, want to check it out? So yeah, so definitely, if you enjoy Kawhi games, like if you enjoyed like strategy games like this, don't mind a complexing challenge. By all means, give this one a shot because this game, I felt definitely was one of the like I said before, I feel like it was a game that very slipped under the radar for a lot of people. Both back then and now. And strategy games are slightly more popular now. I mean, back in the 90s, they were definitely like more of like a niche. People associated the genre with like computer games. So you really didn't see this too much in the console market too much. So nowadays, of course, like games like this like do play very well. But but anyway, so I think it's everything we can say about this game. Joe, I know you're talking about what you were thinking about for next time. What did you decide to look at for us next time?
I decided that we're gonna do Jurassic Park.
Okay, yep. The first game, because there are two games for the system we've talked about before, like off mic.
Yes.
I remember playing this game back when the movie came out. I remember liking it, but it's been a long time since I played it, so I'm curious to go back to it again and see how it holds up.
Yeah, and as I was saying off the record earlier, I grew up with the NES and the Game Boy port.
Okay.
So, and I know that they're somewhat familiar, but there's differences. So
right, and I do know this game differs very much like the Genesis port because they're done by different companies.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But the Genesis port I played. Yeah, the Genesis version I played. Played more recently. Like really, I enjoyed that one. So
yeah, we'll definitely touch on the Genesis port at least a little bit.
Right.
When we talk about it because. Obviously that's where I originate from, so that's.
Oh yeah, right. Yep, of course. So, but yeah. So anyway, that should be fun. Let's mix things up a bit this time. Joe, why don't you go first? Talk about first and tell the listeners like where they can find you at.
Oh well, I can easily be found on Facebook under my real name, Joseph Copel. And also, you can find me on Twitter at JOESUX30. What about you, Greg?
Well, we have a Facebook page. You're welcome to check out comments, make suggestions for games, that kind of stuff. We do have a streamer who posts Super NES stuff on there on a regular basis. So if you're interested in seeing somebody post some Super NES stuff, check it out. Yeah, because actually, I was looking around on Twitch the other day to see if anybody like streams Super DS games on a regular basis, and there's a couple people on there, but not really that much. Considering how popular, considering how popular retro games are these days, I was kind of surprised. So that's why I gave that person like permission to go ahead and post the video links to the Facebook page. So to get some more like attention out there. So yeah, you can also email me directly if you want to. That email is the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com. And I'm pretty proud of ourselves, Joe. We managed to cover this whole game, especially with its like politically charged liberty or death message being quoted from Patrick Henry there, without talking about current events. So yay! I'm impressed. I'm like, oh boy, so you're gonna like go into that. So, no. You're getting enough of that, and enough of that in real life, right now, anyway, listeners. So if
you guys go on your Facebook, you're being bombarded with it. You're not going to get it here on this podcast. I guarantee you that.
No, but definitely. But I will make the but I will make the slightly game appropriate and definitely important message here at the end, though. However, to get out there and vote, because it's very important this year. So absolutely. So I mean, after all, the revolution is what established this foundation of government in the first place. So voting and jury duty are really the two things in which the common citizen can definitely have the most impact upon the affairs of government. So
absolutely.
Have you ever done jury duty yet, Joe?
No, I've been fortunate enough to dodge jury duty twice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was selected, and both times the case did not end up going to trial.
Oh,
like it was settled out of court before it got to that point. So I said thank you, and that's it.
I got called like a few years ago. I went for 2 days. One day they're picking a jury for a civil case. The other day they're picking a jury for a criminal case. Didn't get selected for the pool. So okay. Saw what it was.
Out.
Yep, been there, done that, went home. So but anyway, thank you again always for listening to the podcast, everybody. Thank you again for your time, and feel free to send suggestions, and we'll catch you again soon.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.
Yep, thank you. Take care.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power.